Unsyndicated presents What the Puck with Sean Belegian.
What is up? Glad you could join us. Stanley Cup tonight. How great is that? Getting started in about 45 minutes. Kirk Hunter, Mike Iveso, Sean Belegian. We've got some ribs here. We did a rack of baby backs with, look at this rat. Already the rat decides he wants in. We did butt rub, and we did Hungarian rub. We have Coney, true story, Coney brats, and we have Motor City sausage and brisket burgers. So Stanley Cup, isn't this what you're supposed to be doing during the Stanley Cup? Is eating and having a good time, right? That's the way I look at it.
It was perfect timing getting here as you fired up the grill.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, if people haven't found Plymouth Prime Meats, you guys have to find Plymouth Prime Meats. And I would suggest that you get these Coney dogs. Now, don't expect too much of the Coney.
No, I agree.
No.
I agree.
Nope.
No.
Not a lot of the, but it is a good, creamy, cheesy broth. It's a good cheese broth.
Yep.
That's what we were talking about the other night.
Yep. That's the best way to say it. And there's little pieces of onion in there that add to it. But in terms of the chili, I just didn't get a lot of the chili. There's just no other way to say it.
It was good.
No, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. And let me tell you something. There, Kroger's brisket burgers, pretty darn good.
That was good.
That's pretty darn good.
For to go there and to get a pre-made burger and throw it on your grill, and you did it perfectly with the char when we threw them back on.
Thanks,
there.
buddy.
Charred them.
Thanks, buddy.
Put a nice little char on those. It's a nice burger. Is it the greatest burger we've ever had?
No.
Is it a good burger? A good pre-made burger. Like you just want to go get one. You don't want to hassle with anything. Fire it on the grill. Boom.
By all means.
Yeah.
What are you doing tonight? Obviously, we'd love to hear from you. What do you have planned? Who do you like in the series? We're going to give our breakdown. We're just doing a pregame show tonight because we want to sit down and watch the game. You know, that's the way that I look at it. I think it's safe to say all of us like Florida in this series, but we'll give you a lot of whys as to why we like this series, Florida in this series. And I'll also tell you, this guy has picked against Edmonton every round. So that might be a good thing for Edmonton. I took LA, I took Vancouver, I took Dallas. So, for what it's worth, that's it.
But let's be honest here. Obviously, I have a few hundred reasons that I like Florida, but I can also find a couple that can put Edmonton in the driver's seat and put Edmonton on the cover of the Stanley Cup Champion magazine with the picture. I think that there is a way that they win that Stanley Cup, and I think it has more to do with how Florida plays than what they have to do. But there is a pathway, a proven pathway, as we like to say, to them winning that Stanley Cup.
I couldn't agree with you more. If Florida can't find Coach Hunter, if they can't find that fine line between playing with grit and sandpaper and staying out of the box, if they get in the box, they're dead.
Exactly.
Edmonton's going to win that series.
They got to stay out of the box, but they have to play with that grit. That's what's got them this far. You cannot change. And they changed. I think they're dead.
Yep.
And it's close because Florida has not been the Florida that we watched in January and February. They're not that gritty right now.
No, they're not.
They are not. They are playing solid defensive hockey. Instead of the sandpaper in front of the net, the face washes, and the garbage after, they have just a dynamic electric forecheck that is hitting you anywhere you are. If you are on the board with the puck, you are eating the glass.
Yes.
They are going to be on you. That is the game that Florida has to do. They really have gotten away from the knucklehead stuff.
They have.
And they had to, because power, as we've seen this whole playoff, power plays are killing everybody.
Yep.
Edmonton's power play is on fire.
It's insane.
You can I think, Sean, you could say, in my opinion, that if you're going to give Edmonton power plays, you're going to give up a goal every other.
Oh, that's just the way it is. I mean, that's about what they're at right now too, aren't they? Aren't they over 40%, right?
Over 40, yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. Some comments. Our buddy Hubie, who's normally here, he's in Toronto right now. He said, "My seat is replaced by something better. I see." That's all right. Pony brats is a good idea. That comes from Skydog. Brats in hockey, can it get much better? That's from Nick. Skydog said, make the chili yourself. As you should know, it's super easy to make. You know what? That is actually a really good idea because that's a good brat. Don't get me wrong. It's a good brat. And like Mike said, I highly recommend Plymouth Prime Meats. They have, not only they have great meats for you, but they have a lot of unique stuff there as well. I think it'd be better if I injected it with a little chili. Like if I almost like one of my Cajun injectors, I just injected it with a little chili.
Okay,
Or
here's a
just
question.
right on top.
Chili. Does chili have beans or
No.
no beans?
No beans.
No beans?
No beans.
I love kidney beans.
See,
I'm not
grew-
saying I don't like them,
Mhm.
but chili doesn't have
I
beans.
grew up with chili with kidney beans in them.
Yep.
My wife makes chili with no beans in them.
Yep. That is
I'm perfectly fine with it now.
Mhm.
that
38
right.
years later, but I'm
the
perfectly
origin
fine
of chili was without beans.
without beans.
Yes. So
Oh no, really?
yeah,
That was before my time, so.
it was the Cowboys out there.
Oh.
On their
Pioneer
lot-
woman.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Pioneer. Pioneer one out there, and they didn't have beans. It was meat and everything that they could carry in their pack.
And cooking it in a can over the fire.
Mm-hmm. Dave said big series for the Cup. This is going to be Canada going to bring it back in 6 games. Could you imagine them winning on home ice as well? The party in Edmonton. My goodness gracious, that
They get enough people outside their stadium watching. Can you imagine they went in the stadium
Oh.
and all these people outside?
oh
And it is true. It is all of Canada. When I was up there last week, it was all the dads were talking on the glass. And I'm sure our buddy Hubie, who's out there right now in Toronto, I am sure Toronto is captivated by this, and they are talking about it. It's just
You
it's
think they're
all
rooting for Edmonton?
100%.
Yeah.
100% they were.
You know what's funny about that is I think to me, when I hear the idea of rooting for somebody, like that's so foreign to me. It just is. I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
It's just I think maybe I'm kind of splicing words here. Rooting for me and hoping somebody wins are two different things. Does that make sense?
Yes, but this is nationality. This is a country and so if it were anything different, I could see what you're saying. But I really do think all of Canada has adopted the fact that we need a cup, the first one since '93.
Maybe other than Habs fans. Maybe other than
Okay.
Habs, because Habs fans are sitting there going, okay, we want the honor. By the way, it's 31 years ago tomorrow. Not that I know that. It's 31 years ago tomorrow. Maybe I think the Habs fans are probably sitting back going, "Nah, we'd like to keep the title until the next one we win."
We win.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
It could
A little
be.
selfish.
Of course. Nick said that was a long week with no hockey. I couldn't agree,
Oh, I
especially
agree.
the way that the Memorial Cup ended. Oh, that was fantastic. What a great job by Saginaw. I don't think we got a chance to talk about that yet. Saginaw Spirit, just fantastic. No doubt about that. Put on quite the show. Skydog said no pick for me. Ted, speaking of the Spirit, big Spirit fan. I want 7 games all in OT. The more hockey, the better. Ray said Florida dumb penalties and Edmonton power play could decide it all. That was like our first point today, Ray. It's at 100%. It really look. Florida's a better team. I picked Florida from the get-go on principle, and especially like the Rangers series. We were talking about that. I mean that is they're the anti-Rangers, and so it doesn't surprise me that they smoked them in that series. That was not a 6-game series in any way, shape, or form. Ray said, throw the dog some food. He's waiting for you to drop something. Yeah, this puppy, look at him. He's unbelievable. Okay,
But he's
all
in the
right.
doghouse.
There he is. But he is in the doghouse. Skydog said no beans. Nick said, I'm thinking Oilers in 6. Canada rooting for Edmonton is like the SEC rooting for Georgia in the Natty. That's a good point. It's funny in the SEC, they all just go SEC crazy, and fans around here don't do that. Sean, who do you think is more loyal, Canadians in the Cup or the SEC when chasing the national title in football? The SEC. I really do. At all those games, they start chanting the SEC.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It really is. It's great because I think you do have the super Leaf fan who's bitter at the world. Probably the super Hab fan. Could you imagine telling a Calgary Flame fan, "Hey, root for Edmonton"?
Right.
They tell you to stick it in your ass. Honestly, that's inconceivable. So how did they get here? I've said this many times. I know I said it with Blake, and I'm interested to get your thoughts. I think this is one of the most interesting cup runs by a team in quite some time. And I'll go back to 3 years ago, to be honest with you, because we shouldn't be surprised. I know everybody, how about Florida knocking off Boston last year, that historic year? People forget the year before Florida was the top dog, and Florida had to take their lump. So I wasn't that surprised by it. The Montreal run was nuts. There's no doubt about that. But this Edmonton team, for me, and I watched them a lot, considering that they were always seemingly the 10 o'clock game during the course of the year. You have a struggling goaltender who literally you have to protect at all costs until late in that Dallas series, which was really weird. You have the struggling defense corps. They are. In particular, a kid that I saw playing junior and thought the world of, Darnell Nurse, was awful. He wasn't good. Now, Evan Bouchard is really kind of having a historic type of playoff, but I'm talking defensively. Yeah. That guy was, doing his magic offensively. This has been a crazy run for the Oilers. And as my buddy who's an Oiler fan will tell you, they lead the world in blowing 2-goal leads. Yes. It's incredible.
So, and
I'm going to eat more ribs.
We can go right to that 2-goal lead to where everything changed, from Darnell Nurse's numbers to Skinner's numbers and everything. I actually sat here the other day driving by myself, and I was thinking, I believe Dallas wins that series if they lose that game. The 2-goal game that they came back from, that we were sitting here watching, right? Mm-hmm. Because they taxed themselves so much in that game. They were outscored 11-2 after that game. And we're a different team. Right?
Yeah.
So defensively, we turned there, and then all of a sudden, and you said late in that Dallas series, all of a sudden Skinner looks like the biggest goalie in the world. But I take that back to when, and I said it here, we can go back and watch, when you pull a goalie, everybody looks at the goalie and says, "Oh, how can you do that to the goalie?" The coach's message, and you can speak to this almost every time, is to his team. And it's a slap in the face to the team, not the goalie.
Exactly. Because you yank that goalie, it's because half the goals are not his fault.
So
the guys in front of him,
they
leave him out to dry.
They put Picard in.
Yep.
Skinner comes back, and there's no way that team's going to let him down. That team has played differently since then.
100%.
So,
and Skinner has played to the best.
But again, this is what I'm going to point
to. The last couple of games, he was a difference maker. He was.
This is what I'm pointing to is,
and I think all three of us have
no,
and written them off as
you're making
horrible.
My point. You're making my point is that things have shown a shift. Now what we have to see is that shift because of how taxed I believe Dallas was. Dallas had nothing in the tank after that comeback game.
Agreed.
Nothing. Is that what has made Skinner look better, Darnell Nurse look better, and them look like world beaters? That is what is going to be seen here. Now is Florida going to let that follow that same trend?
I'm going to sound like a douche for saying this, but I said this to Blake the other day, and I need to say it again to both of you. Here comes the forgive me part. I'm just speaking factually. I know Pete DeBoer. I worked for Pete DeBoer for a year. Pete DeBoer and I have kept in contact over the years. I have the utmost respect for Pete DeBoer. Pete, if you're watching, you know that. But I understand what Pete was doing when dealing with the media. in the last couple games of that series, because the media, if you remember, in particular, one columnist made a point to say, Pete, your boys look gassed. What's going on? Mm-hmm. And Pete deflected it, and Pete kind of put the pressure on him and said, where have you been? I haven't seen you, and all that stuff. That's what a good coach does. There's no doubt about that. So, Pete, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't take this as a personal affront. I'm a big fan. But he saw what we all saw.
Yeah.
It was exactly what you said, Mike. That team looked gassed. Like, pardon the crudeness, they blew their wad.
Yeah.
They really did. And maybe it does go back to them having that wild comeback and like completely strangleholding that game. Maybe it does come back to that.
And then they're gassed. Exactly.
If we switch sports and you go into baseball, you talk about pitchers, and they say they count pitches, but a stress pitch, you're down in the count, a 3-2 pitch, or it counts almost double again. It taxes you, the mental stress of things. And that was physically and mentally stressing. They never recovered from it. Now, I don't want to take anything away from Edmonton. That could have been Edmonton. I think that's gonna be seen here. Now, while I'm rambling on and don't have food in my mouth,
I'm glad that you're doing that. I can eat more.
I was watching all the coverage. Everyone's got coverage now, and I heard someone make a point. I've lost who it was now, and he said the team that's going to win the Stanley Cup is the team that can keep their rhythm of their lines going, and they don't have to match up. And he said, I believe that's Florida. I think Florida can roll their lines no matter who's out there with Edmonton and not mess with their game plan. And that's why he was picking Florida. I wanted to get your thoughts.
Well, to your point, what a difference a year makes, okay? Because what you just described, and you guys tell me if you disagree, is exactly what Vegas did to Florida last year. Florida was beat up. We found out that Matthew Tkachuk like literally had a broken body. Yeah. I mean, named something wrong and he had it wrong. And every game, it was the same routine. It was like roll those lines, just grind them down, and Vegas dominated that.
Groundhog Day.
Yeah, really, it was. That's what that series was to me last year. I remember, was it you and I, Mike, talking about it? It was like after game 3, it was like, okay, this is stupid. This is just like, I know how this, I've seen this before. This is just stupid. There was no kind of drama whatsoever. So fast forward a year, I think Florida's that team. And somebody asked, let me go up. Somebody asked, do you think the rest is good for Florida? I'm not a rest or rust guy. I always defer to Chris Chelios on this. Chris Chelios thought that was like one of the most overrated things in sports. That was that's what he told me. He said, if you're a really older team, maybe, he goes, but this isn't like the 60s anymore where, that Leafs team that won the cup in 67, that was their last run. Like, that was it. That was their last run. If they didn't win it then, it wasn't going to happen again anytime soon. And boy, did we know that. So you don't have teams like that today. You have a pretty good mixture of some, youthful exuberance and some 21, 22, 23, 24-year-old guys. But, if this is an older team, maybe that makes a difference. I don't think that's going to be a factor in any way, shape, or form. I really don't. The one thing that I will say, while we are all agreeing that Skinner picked up his game, especially as that series went on, we haven't seen Bad Bob yet.
No.
Is that something that we should be on the lookout?
We've been talking about it.
You can always be on the lookout, but will it happen?
Yeah.
To me, I'm going to say no. I think he is on his game. Beyond. I think this is probably the best he's looked, but he has shown in last year's run that he could do the same thing, but he really is laser focused this year. I'm going to say I don't think we have to worry about Bad Bob.
Our buddy Jesse said, what the puck sucks. He's an Oiler fan. He said, Mikey is right, though. Florida can roll and the Oil can up front, but the Oil D can't. They will get work down low, consistently be chasing The forwards will have to slide down to help and relying on block shot or Skinner. Skinner is not good, literally, and Florida will expose that with their forward pressure.
That's what I'm thinking.
Again, to me, that is such a dramatic and drastic turn of events from last year because that's what caught Florida. Vegas and their size up front and the fact that they were all healthy just rolled those lines and ground them down. That's what I think in this series. I said 5, but again, consider the source. I've been dissing. What do you guys have Florida in? And you guys both have Florida.
I got Florida in 6.
Okay.
I'm going 7 because I obviously we know why I have Florida, but there's just so many ways I can see Edmonton doing this. I really can.
It wouldn't surprise me to see Edmonton take this first game. Just a feeling I got.
Set the tone.
Yep, just the thing.
I got to get a whole bunch of comments. Sorry. Let me catch up. How much does the rest hurt Florida more than help Edmonton based on how Florida plays? Healthy Edmonton could be dangerous. We talked about that. By the way, Game 3 ticket was up to $800 to season ticket holder, going for $1,800 on resale. Oh my goodness!
What was it last week? We looked at them and they were what?
Well, they weren't the cup tickets.
They
We were still looking for. Yeah,
they were what? $200.
Yeah, $200.
Canada is due. The 31-year drought ends this year. 31 years ago tomorrow. Not that anybody's counting.
Once again,
who are the X factors for each team? If Edmonton wins the cup, who makes the difference? If Florida wins the cup, who makes the difference? Skinner. No question. If the brief view of Skinner that we saw the last couple games is the Skinner that you see in this final. I mean, you guys tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, you expect Draisaitl to be there. You expect McDavid to be there. You expect Evan Bouchard to be there. But if the Skinner of the last couple games against Dallas is the Skinner we see in this series, I think that's the X factor for Edmonton.
Yeah, if he plays like he has the last 2 games, honestly, I think it'll be a coin flip.
I'm going
take
to say,
advantage of mistakes.
well, look at this. They're right on to me.
Oh.
I'm going to say that if Barkov is who Barkov is, he's going to take certain Edmonton Oilers out of it.
100%.
Because we're on the Oilers right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, for the Oilers to do it, Zach Pisani is going to have to score 5,000 goals.
Zach Pisani.
Hyman.
That's good. That's good.
Hyman. And there's somebody here, one of us 3 here, has money on Hyman at 100-1 odds to win the Conn Smythe. One of us here. I don't know who it is. And why did I do that? He has 14 goals.
Mm-hmm.
You would know this. There's a record of how many of goals scored in the Stanley Cup run. Do you know the number?
16?
17.
19.
19?
That was my next guess.
And I'm banking on Mr. Barkov shutting some guys down and Hyman.
What year was that? Do you know?
It was one of the 80 cups. Yari Curry has it and Bill Barber.
Okay, so
The
Barber, Barber would have had to have been 74 or 75.
Yeah, went back to back.
And then Leach went nuts in
Reggie
76,
Leach, yeah.
and he won the Conn Smythe when his team got swept. The Habs swept them in 76, and he won the Conn Smythe.
Okay.
So Curry, I'm guessing Curry is 85. That's my guess.
Okay.
Because that was in my mind, that was the wagon. That was the one team where it was like, holy crap. But we can look that up.
So I go with Hyman to be the X factor. I think he's gonna be that, and his goals are dirty and gritty. He doesn't score goals from 3 feet away.
No,
I mean they're all right within that. So my X factor, Mr. Blake, would be Zach Hyman.
Who do you have? Who's your X factor? Kirk, as he's looking up the Yari Curry year, I'm going to say 85. I'm going to say 85.
Gretzky was MVP, so in 85.
Yeah, I can tell you that. I know those Conn Smythe trophies, baby. And the
My
kid
X
named
factor,
Wah in 86.
I'm going to say Kachuk.
Okay.
Well, for
I'm gonna go
Edmonton,
with- for Edmonton? I'm going to say Bouchard.
Okay.
Okay.
No,
He's
he's
having
pretty
He's having a great series.
phenomenal.
he keeps going the way he's going, he's going to be the X factor playing D, popping in when he can, and standing out in front of Skinner. But, like you said, Skinner, he plays the way he did the last couple games. It's going to be a heck of a series anyways.
Eric said, dogs names what kind? This is Rocket. He's a schnoodle.
I got it wrong.
This is Cole. He's a schnoodle.
I said Bart. It was Leach. It was Leach that year.
Yeah, he won the Conn Smythe that year.
And 84-85 was correct.
Reggie Leach.
Yeah, right. I got that right. 85.
Yes,
Yeah,
you
Leach was unconscious.
19 goals in 16 games.
Think about that. They got swept, and he won the Conn Smythe Trophy.
19 goals in 16 games.
Yeah,
and they got swept.
And they got swept by the Habs. Yeah, isn't that crazy?
So now we have to do Florida.
Hextall getting MVP when they lost.
I got one. You guys go first.
Coach, you already had it. Who's your X factor for Florida?
I forget what I said. I'm old. I'm a grandpa now. I forget all that stuff. Who did I say?
Did you say
Kachuk? Sorry.
Okay.
I think he has the type of series that he can.
Yeah.
And
Offensively, and he's going to get under the skin.
Yep.
Of the Oilers, no matter how hard they try not to let him, he's going to do it. And then he pops in some offensive stuff, whether it's a goal or assist.
Yeah.
Make them take a penalty on him, put him on a PP.
And guess what that would make him?
Just stay out of the box.
MVP.
Mm-hmm. That'd make him MVP.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That would make him MVP. I'm going to go and I'm going to mess the name up. Freusling.
Mm-hmm.
Defenseman. I think he's the best defenseman that's left. No disrespect to Bouchard. He's had an MVP run here in the playoffs. He's involved with everything. He also is shutting down, just like Barkov has shut down Kucherov, Zibanejad, and Pasta. He's on the ice at the same time with him, doing the same thing. He is the X factor. He's got to keep going. The whispers of Lidstrom are coming. I
hate to be boring because I'm going to pick both goaltenders. I really am. If Bob is just okay, if bad Bob stays away, if Bob is just okay, Florida wins the series. No doubt in my mind. If Bob is just okay, they're better. That was the first point that I brought up that Jesse chimed in with. I like their depth. I think this is a role reversal from a year ago. I think they can roll them. Don't be dumb. Take dumb out of the equation. If Bob is just okay, if he's okay, Bob, Florida wins the series. Yeah. Bill said McDavid versus McDisney. Ray said Rangers lost because they couldn't score. Edmonton D can score, and a guy like Kane will be a factor. Rangers lost because they're Charmany soft. I'm sorry, they are. I said it before the playoffs started. I said it before the series started. I think that's a Charmany soft team. I really do. Really? And when you have guys like I've been bagging on him for a few months, Panarin. I'm sorry, you don't win with guys like that. You can go get all the little points you want and stuff, but come playoff time, I don't think you win like that. It's just is unbelievable.
And I'll agree with Ray that Kane can be a factor. I want to know if he's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I all I've heard and from the last game when he went out, I don't know if he's healthy.
Yeah.
And that for him to be a factor, he has to be healthy, even though, well, let's be honest, no one's healthy right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he has to be healthy enough that he can be a physical factor. As they show in all the highlights here of him going after Kachuk, that's the role he's going to have to play. He's going to have to play the Florida Panther role on the Oilers. And I don't know if he can do that, but if he can do that, it'll be
he's going to have to keep his cool too, because Kachuk is relentless.
Yep.
But like we said earlier, a week off, the thing that helps is these guys that are nicked up a little bit, it gets them a little bit healthier.
Yeah.
But as far as timing, it's, they've been doing this too long. All it does is help with a little bit of injuries.
Ray said, Hyman said he doubts Toronto is rooting for Montreal. I don't think it's as great as a lot of people think it is. I just think there are a lot of diehard Leaf fan, Hab fan, Flame fan. I think your moderate fan is probably going, yay, go Canada. Honestly, I think your diehard fan, guys like, if you're watching this, or guys like us, I mean, guys, seriously, could you see yourself root for somebody else? It's just, no.
If the point I brought in just was, if you're that country guy, and that's what that's what could draw it out of you. It sounds like weird for us to say it because there's so many teams and we're all team, and we don't see hockey as the NHL as a U.S. thing. Like, we're not going to be. There's a lot of country-based people in Canada that I think are seeing this.
It would be like Detroit fans rooting for Colorado.
I can't.
Right, because they're a U.S. team, and that's just not happening.
Just the rivalry.
Right. Barkov can't stop all the stars on Edmonton. The line he doesn't play against will outplay Florida. Okay.
Well, I agree he can't stop all the shots, but if the team in front of him plays well enough that there's only 2 or 3 or 4 solid chances in there, yes, he can. Yeah, yes, he can. He can steal this series for sure.
I looked pretty smart because I was talking about a couple rounds ago how Evan Bouchard was a underrated player, and I said he's having a historic playoff. And as Blake points out, 27 points. No defenseman has ever gotten 30 plus in a playoff run, and has lost the cup.
I think Blake was looking for a betting angle there.
Yeah, I think it is.
He just found it.
Eric said the Rocket in hockey, right? Not Roger Clemens. Yes.
That's you, Rocket.
Rocket Richard.
Rocket.
And Cole Caulfield, the diminutive one. Edmonton made Ottinger look average. What makes you think they can't do it to Bob? Dallas ran out of gas. I mean, they did. Ray, you watch the series. Dallas ran out of gas.
I'll even answer that in a different way. Bobrovsky's a better goaltender than Ottinger right now. I think Ottinger has been anointed way too fast in my mind. The respect that he gets. When he is good, he is good. When he's not, he is average. I mean, he's an average goaltender. And I think Bob, over his career, has been a better goaltender.
I think Ray brings up a good point. Edmonton has the best 2 players in the series, only in the NHL where you can have 2 best players and everyone picks the other team to win. There's legitimacy there. I think there's and you see it time and time again in the Stanley Cup playoff.
They might
time
be
and time again.
Best 2 players, but they still got to do it.
Not only they still have to do it, but your goaltending. Goaltending, it can set anybody back. I don't care how good you are; it can set you back. And we've said it multiple times on the show that I said what a dynasty they would have this in Edmonton again right now if they'd had a goaltender the last 5 years. Yeah. I mean that right they have been a scary. They just have never been able to put that together. And if they had it right now, this wouldn't even be a contest with the way they're playing and who they are. But again, any breaks that get through, we'll see. Was it Dallas getting bad, or is it someone getting confidence and making it?
The two teams that Mike, you and I referenced were Carolina and Edmonton. I mean, think about the goaltenders that they've had the last 5 years. I mean, what might have Carolina done? And Carolina's not a team with superstars.
Yep.
They really aren't. They've got a bunch of good players, and I think Sebastian Aho is really underrated, quite frankly. But Ray, to your point, hey man, I've seen it. In my lifetime, I go back to 83. That run when Edmonton went to the final, and I think a lot of people said, wow, this is going to be the proverbial passing of the torch. Well, it was a year later that was the proverbial passing of the torch, because that Islander veteran team, and make no mistake about it, was still talent-laden. I mean, in my mind, the greatest goal scorer of all time, and Mike Bossy, pure goal scorer, was there. But, I mean, you think about the wagon that Edmonton had in 83, and they didn't have an answer. And, I'll use the story again. It was Gretzky that said when they walked next door to the locker room and saw all these guys with ice packs on and everything, it like hit him. He was like, okay, there's another level that we have to get to. There's a level of grit that we have to get to. And they smoked him the very next year, plain as day.
They say that's when they learned what it actually took to win the Stanley Cup.
Yep. Jason said, will we be getting Habs man's predictions? He said Habs in 3, for what it's worth. Or let me quote him. He said abs in 3. Bettman that made the NHL a U.S. thing. Our buddy Paul said Oilers score first and then put 5 goals in front of their own net. Nick said, if I am a Leafs or Habs fan in Canada, I think I would be able to root for Oilers to get the cup back to Canada after 31 years. It hits different in Canada and America. Nick said, I love the mini Weber grill next to the couch. Isn't that cool? Yeah, I have so many like knickknacks down here. It's incredible. Dodgers, Yanks, who you rooting for? Eric, come on. Eric, you know better than that. Paul said, Mike, Ken Holland is the GM. Enough said. Had Oil attendee other than Mike Smith in 2021. Maybe they get past the Avs and win it all. That is amazing. We talked about that at the beginning of the playoff. We used both Carolina and Edmonton as examples. And look back at like the slew of bad names on both those teams. I mean, it's incredible. It really is. It's incredible. Ray said, it's NHL versus country. You watching ABC or CBC? CBC. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Except I'm going to say this again. I don't pay attention really to the pregame show and intermissions anymore. I just don't. I mean, I just when they went down the route they did in 20 and 21, it just wasn't for me. You know, I'm not going to make a political statement or anything like that. It just wasn't for me. Wasn't for me. Ray said, if you're a hockey fan, a true history fan, are you rooting for McDavid to get his cup and cement his legacy? Things like that don't enter my mind, honestly. You know what? Connor McDavid and how unbelievable he is, in my mind, won't change whether he wins a cup or not. Now, if he goes extraordinary in the final and goes all world like he did, look, he was the best player in the world in Game 6. Yeah. And it wasn't just his goal. It wasn't just the goal. It was all the little things that I love Sidney Crosby for. I watch Connor McDavid do. I watch him win battles in his own zone. I watch him, compete, 200 feet and everything. So it won't change for me. No, he's a phenomenal player.
The puck goes unnoticed.
Hmm?
Now he's making that transition that everybody in the Detroit area says Steve Yzerman made and saw Steve. But every Stanley Cup champion makes that, and he is now doing that. The only thing I think, I'm not rooting for him to win it. Like, oh, you're the best. I want you to. I don't do that. But I made a comment the other day. Sebi asked me, because he knows where my rooting interest is right now. And I just said, honestly, it would be really cool. It would be good for him. He's the best player. He's, he does all these things. He's get all these accolades. For him to win the cup, that'd be really cool. That's the way I see it.
Hubie said, up in Toronto with 2 Leaf fans. One said in the first round we would be up here for Game 1 of Leafs and Cup Final. He was late for game at 8 a.m. this morning. I go, you at the pregame parade, laughed and said 1967, bitch. Yes, indeed.
Hubie and his buddies.
Skydog said it's the playoffs leaders in scoring, and it's loaded with Oilers and just a few Panthers. Yeah, listen, I'll say it again. When you roll those lines, what you give up maybe in point totals, you get in guys being fresh come finals.
Just you go back to I
have a perfect example for you.
Go for it.
Well, we've talked so much about the 1993 Montreal Canadiens because it was 31 years ago. Yeah. Those four lines, Jacques played them equally, and each one of those lines contributed. And I watched it, especially I think in the Quebec series. People forget they were down 0-2 in that first round series. They were down 0-2. And then they just started to grind. And then Patrick Waugh, oh yeah, I'm Patrick Waugh. I'm pretty good. And like Patrick Waugh went Patrick. But that was the one thing, especially, people forget that Kings team was loaded. They just shut those guys down, especially as the series went on. They just shut that team down,
Edmonton's doing a better job of managing their lines, but they don't trust their 4 lines like Florida trusts their 4 lines.
Yep.
Because
huge
McDavid is still –
huge
McDavid and Draisaitl still play too much, but it's not as much. I want to say – I was trying to think. I think it was the Vancouver series
Yes.
where they had 28 minutes each in a 3-period game.
When you can roll,
I've never
you can roll 4 lines and trust your 4th line not to get scored on, but when they pop in a goal or two, it's like putting a kid in the candy store saying have fun.
Something near and dear to all of our hearts. Okay, and I'm not taking anything away from Mike's son. Catholic Central rolling those lines is such a huge factor. I don't care what you have. If you have 3 lines and they have 4 lines, I'll take the team with 4 lines.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I will. I just keep her close, and then you see everybody start to drag a little bit in the 3rd period. And I hope you know I'm not like disrespecting Catholic Central. That's a tip of the cap. You know what I mean?
We've had this conversation. We've had this conversation before. I know what you're saying.
Yep.
But it's not to have 4 lines. You have to have faith in those 4 lines.
Put them out over and over.
No matter who's on the ice, I am putting you out. And to get back to the CC thing, we've watched many a CC games where we've seen that 4th line come out against the other team's number 1 line, and we look at each other and go, here we go.
Yep.
And this is what we're going to.
Yep.
And it is time after time after time. That 4th line wins
over and
time.
over and over.
Fresh legs.
But you do. So a lot of teams can dress 4 lines. They're not going to play them with something like that. And that's so to get off of CC and back on to that's what Florida does.
And I hate to go back to the 93 Habs, but that was
no, you don't.
I don't at all. Okay, I don't at all. But no, there was some kid named John LeClaire who was a 4th line player, and all of a sudden they decided, we're gonna put this guy with Bellows and Muller in the flipping Stanley Cup final. How'd that work out?
Yeah.
Overtime winner in game 3 and 4. Won both games in LA in overtime. Yeah. And it's funny because if you watch those interviews, that's what those guys say. You know, you have guys that are used to scoring a crap load of points, and they're like, Jacques told us at the beginning of the playoffs, boys, you're not going to have a lot of points. You just said, Vinny Domfus, you're not going to have a lot of points because I plan to play Ed Ronan's line as much as I plan to play your line. And Benoit Brunet and Guy Carbonneau and you know, at that point in time, Denny Savard was a checking player. I'm going to play these lines, and that's it's just a huge factor every single time. Ray said PK picked the Panthers in 6. He's the Barkley of the NHL. Go opposite of him. Edmonton in 6. Blake, this is for you and Mike. Use my DraftKings anytime score boost for Verhaeghe. This comment is for degenerate gambler Blake. Paul said, I was at the Holy Moly Grad Bash today. Great kid. I gave him props for the MVP. And he said, anyone on that team could have been the MVP. It was all about the team, he said. Yeah.
Sharnakas,
yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
That's where my family is right now. So congratulations on your graduation there, Mr. Sharnakas.
That a boy. Florida and Edmonton 4th line is not your typical 4th line. The 3rd pair of D for both could be bigger difference. Which one will be on the ice for a big goal against? I would counter that with this, though, Ray. I think the way that Paul Maurice utilizes his 4th line and the way Edmonton utilizes their 4th line are 2 different things. That, in just my opinion, I think you see them utilize, kind of spread those minutes out more. I think for the Panthers, and I think that's a huge factor.
And your 5th and 6th defenseman is different than your 4th line.
Mm-hmm.
It just is. Your top D are going to get 25, 26 minutes a game, and it's going to go on down there. Your 5th and 6th, you're not relying on your 5th and 6th defenseman.
Your 5th and 6th defensemen are just going to be out there for a quick time just to get.
And they're going to be out. They're out with the 1 and 2. Like they're out with somebody too. So it's not the same thing. And I would take Florida's 4th line, as you were saying.
Yep. Yeah, Eric's a Yankee fan. Sorry. 1-0 Dodgers early on. All right, we got to get out of here. We got more food to eat. One more time. Who do you got?
I got Florida in 6.
I'm hoping Florida in 7, but I have a pathway for Edmonton. And we'll know real fast.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot, though.
Okay.
Who?
Florida.
Okay. 7?
7.
Florida in 5.
Ooh,
honestly, 5. I think Florida's going to wind them down. We'll see. Enjoy. We'll talk soon. I know Blake said we should do this every night. I don't know if the boys can come over for every Stanley Cup game. Maybe we could all join each other on StreamYard or something. I know we're going to be back here next Saturday, except he won't.
I won't be here.
That
Saturday.
makes me sad. But you know what? Congratulations. A wedding, right?
Yeah, my niece's wedding.
Congratulations to your niece.
Yeah,
Absolutely. All right, Blake, thank you. Thanks to all of you. Enjoy the finals because we're going to be whining and crying and waiting for hockey soon enough.
2 weeks.
Take it all in. We'll talk to you soon. See ya.
See ya.
What the Puck, featuring Sean Belegian. Produced by Todd Losey and Blake Matrazek. Executive produced by Sean Belegian and Todd Losey. Theme song and incidental music by Elliot Middleton. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated Podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe to What the Puck on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Got something to say to Sean? Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.